Well, by way of that point of order, I think that, and I'm not referring to your ruling, but by way of that point of order, an explanation has been offered, one that I wasn't aware of, and I think it is a shame that we've got legislation that of such significance as this. And I'm not objecting to the urgency. I've never objected to the urgency for this particular piece of legislation because I know that the desire is to have it passed by the 30th of June. And I've indicated to the Minister that the opposition will support the passage of the legislation. But there is a serious issue around two in particular matters that have arisen since the bill was reported back. And the first one is the one that I already mentioned, which is the question of the Mortgage Brokers Association. And the way that this is dealt with by way of supplementary order paper, which is why I wanted a minister to stand in the House and put this on the record, is that a new subclause D has been added to the new section 55, which states, providing in any case that is specified in the regulations for the purposes of this paragraph, services of the kind referred to in paragraph A or B or both, but in relation to any Category 2 product, specified Category 2 products or specified classes of Category 2 products. This is the provision that adds into the authorisation provision. And I think having a minister read this into the record on the House would actually be useful to the Mortgage Broking Association. And it's a shame that, the chair of the Select Committee is having to do the work of the Minister in the House on this particular occasion. And I am a little bit annoyed about that because I think it is discourteous to the House not to have the Minister respond to what is a very technical and detailed supplementary order paper and to read the record or read into the record what changes are being made. Now, there is a debate to be had about the methodology that has been chosen by the Minister to address this issue, because what it requires is for those operating in the Category 2 space to wait for regulations. None other has to wait for regulations the way Section 55 has been used. So I think we're entitled to an explanation. I think that the explanation probably is that it's relatively short notice and we would like to get a regulation-making power into the legislation so that we can resolve this matter after the fact and that we can do so in a way that indicates to the sector that they are going to have their needs addressed by way of regulation. I think that would certainly send a very positive message to the mortgage broking sector, who, again, I want to place on record, I am very happy that they wish to improve the quality of advice that they are providing, and they want to increase the level of qualifications that their particular financial advisors or their mortgage brokers will actually be providing by lifting those qualifications to the AFA level. So having Section 55 amended in the way may in fact just simply be because of the pressure of time, and if that's the case, we should have that read into the record. Then there will be comfort coming from the comfort going to the sector that the regulations will be forthcoming from the government in due course and in time for the legislation to be implemented. What we don't want to see happen is that, and there is a risk of this happening, and I've actually heard that it has happened, that people enrolled for these higher level qualifications actually pulling out of the qualification course because they no longer need to do it. Well, I quite frankly, I think that's pathetic, and I don't think that anyone worth their salt should even contemplate pulling out of a course they've enrolled in. They've committed to a particular course of action, and I think they should continue down that path. But I think, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I think that, and so I really want to discourage people from doing that. This legislation will now, in the future, I believe, as a result of the amendment of the supplementary order paper, once regulations are passed, enable those operating in the Category 2 space to be authorised financial advisors, therefore meeting the requirements set by the Securities Commission for their authorisation in that space. And it does mean that they'll be authorised in that space for the products that they're dealing with. And I think that's a very positive and powerful message that can be sent in terms of quality standards out there in the wider industry, and I think that's a very good thing. But it would be really helpful to have a minister in the chair who was prepared to actually write the record, as it were, in the manner that I'm proposing. The second area is an email that's been sent to the minister, was sent on Monday and copied to myself and other members of the committee and other ministers. And it is relating to the concern that we still haven't quite carved out those that need to be carved out. And we did do quite a bit of carving out of this bill. What we wanted to make clear was that there were things in this area of financial service that was not really financial advice. And what we identified were those operating, for example, as retail assistants and seeing them helping people fill out their application for their hire purchase, for their goods that they've purchased. This is in the credit space, gathering information for an application for credit. It was not seen to be covered by this. There is other law that deals with that subject, and that sits very clearly with the Minister of Consumer Affairs, and there are changes that need to be made there. And I should actually just put on the record that I should think, after the comments that we've heard in the House already on this bill, that the government should support Carol Beaumont's private members bill on loan sharks, because that is definitely an area where we need to have some tightening of the regulation. So I think it's really important, and I'll just make this point, that the government should definitely support Carol Beaumont's private members bill when it comes up for a vote. And we'll certainly be reporting back or repeating back some of the comments that have been said today about those who are vulnerable in the financial sector, and certainly those who are the victims of loan sharks are vulnerable in that sector. So, but what we've had drawn to our attention, and this is on behalf of Farmers Trading, Taxi Charge, the New Zealand Taxi Federation and Telecom, is a concern that we haven't quite done the carve-out sufficiently, or undertaken the carve-out sufficiently, and that we are concerned, and the concerns are being raised that we haven't quite got that exactly right. And so I would like the Minister to place on record a response to Marketing Law, who have raised these particular issues with us, and they are firstly that the Act will apply to many industries not contemplated by the FATF requirements and who have not been consulted. We did hear their submission in a very positive way. We did take on board. We were very clear that we had undertaken the carve-out, and so that's why we need to have it on the record that the Minister agrees that we have appropriately carved them out. And there is a question around access to justice denied to financial service provided, and this is around binding rulings of the dispute resolution scheme, section 49D of the bill, where the complainant can apply to the district court for a review of the final settlement. The DRS can apply for a review, but there is no provision for the respondent FSP, financial service provider, to apply for a review. And even though the district court is empowered to amend a manifestly unreasonable provision, it can do this only on the application of the complainant or the DRS provider. And they say that this conflicts with section 27 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, which is why they've copied this to the Attorney-General, and which addresses the right to justice for every person. They say there is no mutuality of rights here, and the FSP bill will prevail over section 4 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. And then they go on to say that if the respondent doesn't carry out non-pecuniary orders of the DRS, Mr Chairman.
Call clear, Karen.